All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, we're a matter of days away from the start of the 2024 NBA Finals, which has the makings of being a barn burner. The Boston Celtics are making their second trip to the NBA Finals in the last 3 years, while they are also looking for championship number 18, which would break the current tie with the Los Angeles Lakers for the most NBA championships in league history. The Dallas Mavericks, on the other side, this is their third trip overall to the NBA Finals, their first since they won it back in 2011. And they're also looking for their second championship in franchise history. Now, you look at the Celtics team, and in my opinion, it is now or never. Okay. We've seen the Celtics be so close in recent years, so many trips to the Eastern Conference Finals. They finally broke through, got to the NBA Finals 2 years ago. They were overwhelmed by the experience of the of the Golden State Warriors. And at the end of the day, the rest is history. You look at Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. They've basically, come into the league together for the most part. One's been in the league a year longer than the other, and they're attached at the hip, if you will. Okay. And it comes down to this: can they lead the Celtics to the promised land? You think about the Celtics' history as a franchise. So many great players over the years, okay, that have played for the Boston Celtics organization. But at the end of the day, the Celtics organization is kind of like the Lakers, it's kind of like the New York Yankees. Okay, franchises, sports franchises of that ilk, where your great players are defined by the championships that they've won. And for Tatum and Brown to take that next step, okay, among the Celtic greats, in my opinion, they really need to be at their best in these finals in order to help the C's win a championship. Aside from Tatum and Brown, you have the Drew Holiday factor, all right? We saw what Drew Holiday did for the Milwaukee Bucks 3 years ago when they won a championship. He was that missing piece. He was that missing ingredient that brought it all together. And of course, we're talking about a tremendous ball handler. And Drew Holiday is a legit point guard. He's not a guy at the point guard position. There is a difference in that. Okay. He gives the Celtics another proven ball handler late. He's a tremendous perimeter defender. And more importantly, Drew Holiday is a leader, and we have seen his impact for these Celtics throughout the year, throughout these playoffs, and he's going to have to once again be very important in this series. Now, the return of Kristaps Porzingis, and this is going to be big because first things first, people are talking about Kyrie Irving going up against his former team in the Boston Celtics. And of course, that 1 year that Kyrie played with the Celtics was a nightmare for both Kyrie and the team. All right. But let's not forget that once upon a time, Kristaps Porzingis played for the Dallas Mavericks as well. Things did not go well for him there. And it's one of those where I think what we're seeing right now with Porzingis is a revitalization because he came in to the NBA first round pick of the New York Knicks years ago, and he was the centerpiece of that team until he got hurt. Then of course he got traded to Dallas, and it looked like it was going to be a good combination with him and Luka Doncic. That didn't work out. Went to the Wizards. It was kind of an afterthought there, and now, to me, I think he's in a perfect spot for him. And, we haven't seen Porzingis that much during the postseason. He's been out with the calf injury. But, Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla has been tight lipped about things. I do expect Kristaps Porzingis to be ready to go in the NBA Finals. I think the fact that he hasn't played since the first round, also, you figure the Celtics have that long layoff, okay, before the start of the finals. They haven't played since last Monday. We're talking about the NBA Finals not getting kicked off to this Thursday. So that is more than enough time for him to get himself right. And the return of Porzingis is going to be extremely big for this Celtics team. Why? Because it gives them additional depth, because it puts Al Horford back on the bench. And what you do when you put Al Horford on the bench, it makes your bench stronger. Now, you think about this Celtics starting five. You got Derek White out there. You've got Tatum and Brown. You got Drew Holiday. Okay. And then you also have Porzingis, presumably. Okay. Porzingis changes things because now he's a legit stretch big who can hit that outside shot. He can play close to the basket. He can pass as well. So now this gives the Mavericks something else to think about. And you can't, just freelance, if you will, and play off of Porzingis and concentrate on somebody else, because if you do, he can pick you apart. So his presence, okay, is going to keep Dallas defensively more honest. So that is going to be very big to have him back. I talked about Derek White. I talked about Al Horford. Another guy to keep an eye on for the Celtics is Peyton Pritchard. Now, the Celtics, will they continue to live and die by the three? I think they will, because they've gotten this far with it. For the Celtics, they have really not been tested throughout these NBA playoffs. You figure they face Miami in round number one, no Jimmy Butler, no Terry Rozier. Second round against the Cavs, Donovan Mitchell got hurt during that series. That changed things. Of course, to me, the Celtics were going to beat the Indiana Pacers regardless, but that whole series got expedited once Tyrese Halliburton went out with a hamstring injury. This is a different beast that the Celtics are facing here, because you arguably have the two best finishers in the NBA right now in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. I will admit when I'm wrong. And I was wrong about the Mavericks being able to get this far due to the fact that I expected their opponents to go out there and just zero in, allow Kyrie and Luka to do their thing and shut down everybody else. And it's been the exact opposite, from the standpoint that Luka and Kyrie have been doing their thing, but as they've been doing their thing, they've been getting everybody else involved as well. You look at Kyrie. I haven't seen Kyrie Irving, in my opinion, this locked in probably since that 2016 NBA Finals. Kyrie is a guy that he is playing like he has something to prove, and for the three opponents of the Dallas Mavericks so far, this during this postseason run, they found that out the hard way. Luka Doncic, plain and simple, is one of the best players in the NBA, and I think this additional time off between the Western Conference Finals and the start of the NBA Finals is going to be good for him, because he should be fresher. It's going to be a week since the Mavericks clinched the Western Conference Championship before they tip it up in Game One of these NBA playoffs. So you look at this two-man power trip. They've gotten the Mavericks this far, and they have the ability to get them four more wins and get that championship. You look at the supporting cast around Luka and Kyrie. You've got your Derek Lively's, you got your Derek Jones Jr.'s, PJ Washington, who has been big ever since the trade, Daniel Gafford, Maxi Kleber. So you look at these supporting cast, and they're going to be there. For me, I'm looking at the matchups. Now, I would anticipate Jaylen Brown guarding Luka, and it's one of those, due to the length and the defensive ability of Jaylen Brown, he's not going to stop Luka. But the thing is, if Jaylen Brown can make Luka work throughout this series, that is going to be big for the Boston Celtics. But that's an if right there. Drew Holiday, probably the Celtics' best on the ball defender. I would imagine him being, guarding Kyrie a lot through this series. And it's kind of like the same thing. Kyrie, the speed advantage, definitely, goes to Irving in that category. But a veteran like Drew Holiday is very, very cagey. Now, this Dallas defense going up against Jason Tatum. And for me, I think the thing with Jason Tatum is this, and I have said this consistently: Tatum is better when he's getting to the basket and he's posting up. Okay. He's a big guard, big forward, whatever you want to refer to him as. But nonetheless, sometimes more often than not, he tends to settle for that outside shot. And this is what I talk about with the Boston Celtics living and dying by that 3-point shot. And it's hurt them at times during the regular season. They've been able to get away with it in the postseason, but they can't get away with it in this series. I think the Celtics need to be on their game in each facet of that contest because what we've seen from the Mavericks throughout this postseason is we've seen teams get up on them, okay, and they have failed to put them away. Boston has the ability to get up on Dallas, but Boston also has a tendency to nap out there, and you can't nap on the Dallas Mavericks. If you get a 15-point lead on this Dallas team, guess what? You've got to put your foot on the gas. Why? Because when it comes to the fourth quarter, Luka and Kyrie, they're like those quarterbacks in the National Football League. And you think about throughout the years, some of the great quarterbacks who've, been known to play their best in the fourth quarter. Roger Staubach, Johnny Unitas, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, John Elway, Brett Favre, Patrick Mahomes, whoever. Okay. It's one of those where if Dallas keeps this game close enough or games close enough and within reach, all right, I'm talking about like 10 points or so, Luka and Kyrie can both take over. Okay. And I think this series it's going to come down to a lot of different factors. Which coach is at his best, making adjustments throughout this series, and the brief tenure of Joe Mazzulla as a head coach. It came up to bite him last year in the conference finals against Miami. Okay, that was the difference. I think the coaching this time around, he has one more year of experience, but he's going up against a guy in Jason Kidd who has a wealth of experience, playing in the NBA. And of course, he's gotten more experience now as a head coach. Jason Kidd looks a lot different as a head coach now than he did when he initially became the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, okay, about a decade or so ago. And that is experience and that is seasoning. And of course, Jason Kidd has the opportunity to do something very special, win a championship in the NBA, both as a player and as a head coach with the same team. Not a lot of guys out there can say that. So I think those are going to be a factor. Who's going to get the edge on the boards, the turnover battle? All of these things are going to factor in. I look at this series. I think this has the makings to be one of the better NBA finals in probably the last 30 years or so, if not more. It's one of those where there's a lot on the line for both of these teams. And I think both of these teams need to understand about seizing the moment. And I say that because you look at it, we have not had a repeat NBA champion since the Golden State Warriors back in 2018. And if my memory doesn't fail me, I don't think any of those teams that have gotten to the NBA Finals, even as a loser in recent years, have been able to go back and get back the following season. So it's one of those where just because you're doing it right now is not a guarantee. There's a lot of parity in the NBA. I've talked about it before. There's going to be player movement this summer due to that additional cap apron. So nonetheless, who's going to go out there and seize the moment? This right here is a legacy builder. I've talked about Jason Tatum. I've talked about Jaylen Brown from the Celtics aspect on this, but then also for Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's already a Hall of Famer, already one of the greatest players in NBA history. But now for him to go out there and win this championship, with another team, of course, he did it with LeBron back in 2016. Now he has an opportunity to do it with Luka. And then from Luka's standpoint, you have the opportunity, you're already there, okay, as a star. You have that opportunity to get up to that next echelon, if you will, and possibly potentially be the third foreign born finals MVP in the last 4 years. Okay, so I think there's plenty on the line between two teams that are at the top of their game. How rusty will the Boston Celtics be in game one, being that they have not played since last Monday? That's going to be a factor right there. Is it going to be rust or is it going to be rest? We have to wait and see. Dallas definitely wants to go out there and steal game one. I will tell you like this. I would be extremely surprised to see either one of these teams head to Dallas for game three up 2-0. I think this series is going to be split with the first two games in Boston. I would be surprised to see one of these teams win two games in a row throughout this series. That's how tight I think it's going to be. I think both of these teams are coming in playing as good as they possibly can. I think the Celtics understand how close that they've been. And if they are tired of hearing the narrative, well, you can't get over the hump, they'll go out there and attack this. I think this is going to be a tremendous series. I think it goes the distance. I know some are favoring Dallas, some are favoring Boston. For me, at the end of the day, it is a toss up. I would not be surprised if either of these teams go out there and win this NBA championship. But honestly, for me, I'm going to give the slightest of slight edges to the Boston Celtics in this one. And the reason is, for me, the Drew Holiday factor, and I also think Porzingis coming back is bigger than most people want to give it credit for. This is going to be a tremendous series, folks. If you have an opportunity to sit down and watch each minute of these NBA finals, please do so because you're in for a treat. Two great teams playing at the top of their game. And at the end of the day, there's no turning back. So let's just see who can go out there and execute the most, make the fewest mistakes, and do whatever it takes to take home the Larry O'Brien trophy. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. I'm saying take care, have a wonderful day, and enjoy these NBA finals. Be well, everybody.